Now, last time, on my last video, I spoke about a car accident I had where we hit a bridge. Now, a couple of people, couple of subscribers asked me about it, and with the low number of subscribers I've got, that's quite a high percentage of my subscribers have asked me what happened afterwards. Well, this is kind of the story. The trouble is I'm sort of cursed or blessed or whatever with a very good memory. I can remember all sorts of things that happened from early age, highlights, not everyday things. I can't remember what the weather was like in 1974 at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or anything like that, but I can certainly remember big events in my life, and this car accident was kind of one. It was a 1956 or 1957 Holden, FE Holden. When we hit the bridge, as I said, the car tipped right over and righted itself again. When we first hit, my friend who was driving went straight out through the windscreen. He got his head stuck in a creek, and because he was still half comatose and that, he would have drowned if our friends didn't find us. But when it tipped over, it threw me. I can still remember clearly being thrown around inside the car, but it threw me into where the driver's seat sort of was. The steering wheel went out through the driver's window. The engine came up through the cowling. It ripped a big hole in the floor. I think probably what happened was I put my hand on the dashboard and my knee and sort of turned to the side, still looking, as I saw it coming. I mean, I wouldn't have had time to grab the steering wheel and twist it or anything anyway, but having my hand on the dashboard sort of shattered my wrist in lots of places. It's not very good now, and my leg, my femur, got what's called a spiral fracture, where the bone twists and breaks at the same time and sort of shatters a bit. As I say, I can remember talking to my friends when they came back. They were asking me, what's wrong and that, and I says, I think I've broken my arm, and I'm pretty sure I've broken my leg because I couldn't move either of them. My good arm was over my eye because I had a whole lot of glass inside my eye. The windscreens in the 1950s weren't safety glass, and I don't think this one was even laminated glass. It just shattered, and there was slivers of glass and all sorts of things like that. I know my friend, about a week afterwards, he got what he thought were pimples all over him, and he was popping them, and pieces of glass were coming out from his skin. So that's what went into my eye. When the ambulance and the police arrived, no one could sort of work out how to get me out of the car, because maybe it might tip over, I might go down the bank, and all sorts of things like that. There was a police sergeant there that he had it in for my friend, and my friend, he'd been winding him up for years, well, not years, but months anyway, and they were sort of mortal enemies, but because of all the blood and mud and all the chaos and that was going on, he didn't realise that who my friend was there. So he's decided he'd be, the one who'd be the hero. He jumped up on the bonnet and grabbed both my hands, even though my wrist was broken pretty badly, and my leg was kind of stuck through the floor, my broken leg. And he just wrenched and twisted and pulled and wrenched, and he finally dragged me out through the windscreen. That part of it I don't remember, although my friends told me afterwards I made quite a bit of noise while he was doing it, and I'm not surprised, Just remembering I'm only 15 when this all happened, so it's 15-year-olds. They aren't as tough as when they get older or anything. But anyway, we got loaded into the back of the ambulance. My friend was refusing to talk to the police. There was another policeman there, and he said to me, he says, who are you? And I told him my name and address and all that sort of stuff, and who's your friend? And I says, that's my brother. And I gave my brother's name and the same address and everything else like that. And my brother turned up to work on Monday. Everyone that he worked with was really amazed that he had turned up, because the local radio station gets hold of the police records and things like that, and it was over the radio that my brother Bill was in a bad car accident on the weekend, and they were amazed that he had the fortitude to come to work. It wasn't till a few days later I explained how come the mistake was made. He thought it was all quite amusing too, but because my friend he'd been to Borstal less than a year, he'd been released, and it was for driving offences. It was going to be another 4 years probably before he could even apply for a licence again. It's just not something you do to a friend. You don't dob someone in for that. I knew I was going to be incapacitated for quite a while, and if I got had up for drunken driving, by the time I was mobile and everything else like that, I figured, well, that'll be the time that my licence will be confiscated and I'll have it back by about then, so that was my thinking at the time. We got transported. In those days, the ambulance was what's called load and go. They get to an accident scene or anything like that. There's no paramedics or anything to work on anyone. They just throw you in the ambulance straight to the hospital, and then they do the work on you then. So by the time they got to the hospital, I was in and out of it a little bit, I think. But I remember quite clearly being laid out at the outpatients or the accident and emergency department, and at one stage I remember sort of sitting up a bit and seeing my leg, and there's just a stump of my leg sticking up, and the rest was just flopped down on the bed, all twisted around and things like that. I was yelling out, look at my leg, look at my leg. And they said, yes, we know. In those days, in 1970, there was a matron that would run the hospital, and they were evil witches, This one was particularly nasty. She was bigoted. She was, everything that's bad about someone, she was. And she decided that a 15-year-old shouldn't be drinking rum all day and driving a car, and it was probably 12 hours, from when we started drinking till when we had our crash. So to teach me a lesson. No drops in my eye or anything like that. She had one nurse holding my eye down like that, another nurse holding my eye like that, and they got a cotton bud, and I can still remember seeing the cotton bud coming towards my eye, and they scraped all these slithers of glass out of my eye. Now that, when someone asks, 1 to 10 pain levels, what are you at? I know what 10 feels like. That's what that was like, that was pretty bad, and thinking about it, I can feel it now almost. They just bandaged my wrist up at that stage, and then someone grabbed my foot to put traction on it, and bang, that's all I can remember. I can't remember anything till the next day, waking up in the hospital bed with a bandage around my leg and around my wrist and a patch over my eye. The patch stayed on for, I think, about 6 weeks. They took it off because the white in my eye was starting to discolour, and they were worried that it might sort of affect my sight a little bit. But even taking the patch off, light was really, really bad on it. It took a long time. I guess it was the cuts in the eye itself, but I just had to have my eye closed all the time. They tried to force me to open it all the time. Every time they saw me, they'd tell me off for not having my eye open and things like that. But I know what it felt like. In fact, probably 35 years after it happened, I guess, I went to get an eye check in Australia at an optician, and the optician said, "Oh, where'd you get all those nasty cuts in your eye from?" And I thought, 35 years later, and they're saying that. So, that wasn't much fun at all. But there's a lot more to the story. There's some hard case things happen too at hospital. But that was the first night. There were some other pretty horrible things after that. I will tell you next time maybe. Okay, thank you.